Hello students, welcome to ACE Engineering Academy. Myself Ramesh Masuna. In this video, I would like to discuss GATE 2021 compiler design questions. From the subject compiler design, we got totally of 4 questions. In that 4, there are 3 questions are of 2 marks and 1 question is of 1 mark, totally 7 marks asked from the compiler design. And these 4 questions are from 4 different topics. One question is on syntax directed translation. One question is on LL of 1 parser. One question is on SLR of 1 parser. And one more on directed acyclic graph. So when we see all these questions, overall all topics are covered. Now we will discuss all these 4 questions in a detailed way. Coming to the first question. Consider the following grammar. This is a grammar given and the associated syntax directed translation. So here for each grammar production, a translation is provided, means semantic rules are provided for each grammar productions. Question is, with respect to the above grammar, which of the following choices is correct? There are options are given. With these options, we need to find what for the grammar is written. Observe this syntax directed translation. P tends to D star E star. Here it is given, this context free grammar admits a series of declarations followed by expressions. Here program consisting of set of declarations, D star indicates set of declarations, E star indicates set of expressions. In a programming language, we declare the variables, then followed by we write expressions for writing the program logic. And here you observe the second and third production rules. D tends to integer ID. It means it is going to declare an identifier which is of type integer. And third production you look, bool ID, means one identifier is declared which is of type boolean type. And what is the semantic rule for this second and third production rules? The second and third production rule have a semantic record that ID dot lexeme, means whatever the identifier is declared is of type integer, is of type bool. So this information required to store the type of identifier into the symbol table. Next, fourth production rule, E tends to E1 plus E2. Here it is checking the type of E1 and type of E2 if both are of integer type, say 2 plus 5, both are integer type. Then it is going to set E type equal to integer. It means this 2 plus 5 which is equals to 7, that is also an integer type. So it means it is going to check the type of E1 and type of E2 for integer type. Then if both are of integer type, the result type is also integer. And the fifth one, E tends to not even, it is checking the type of E1 if it is boolean, then type of E it is also required to be boolean. It is checking the boolean type expressions. And the last one you look, E tends to ID. It means that expression is becoming ID and that type of E should be integer. What does it mean? The type of identifier here, it is going to be derived is always of type integer. When you observe these 6 production rules, you are not going to get boolean variables as an identifiers. Let us say an example. My program consisting of declaration followed by expression. Say declaration could be integer ID. Say int ID. This expression should be either E1 plus E2 or E tends to not even. But what E is going to derive? ID, which is of type integer. Let us say E is of E1 plus E2 and E is ID. Here is also E is ID. And these identifiers are of type integer. These identifiers are of type integer. So that it is going to check the type of E1 and type of E2 is going to be checked for the integer, not for the Boolean variables. Why? Because always that E, whatever you see in the parse tree that is possible, is finally going to derive an identifier. That identifier is of type integer, not the type of Boolean. Fine. So it means what we understood, this semantic rules are written for checking the type expressions for integers, not for the Booleans. Why? Because expressions are deriving identifiers which are of type integers. And moreover, it is a case that you can declare some variable which may not be used. That's why rule 3 you can ignore it. Why? Which is Boolean type of identifiers. Now coming to the options. Option A says the actions will lead to an infinite loop. So it is not going to lead any infinite loop. So option A is ruled out. Option B, the actions can be used to type check syntactically the correct Boolean variables. Here, when you observe the parse tree, are you getting any Boolean variables as the leaf nodes? No. Why? Because that identifiers, whatever you see in the leaf, are of type integer, not are of the type Boolean. So that option B is incorrect. Why? Because it is not going to type check the Boolean variables, declarations. Option C, the actions can be used to type check syntactically the correct integer variables. Yes, it is type checking the integer variables, right. Option D, the actions can be used to correctly type check any syntactically correct program. So that option D is incorrect. So what is the answer for this question? Option C. Here coming to the second question. Consider the following context-free grammar where the set of terminals given and the production rules are given. Here the question is, the following is a partially filled LL of one parsing table. It is not filled completely. Here S row C column is 1, S row F column is 2, T row C column is 3 and T row dollar column is 4. These are not filled. Which one of the following choices represents the correct combination for the numbered cells in the parsing table? Here blank denotes that the corresponding cell is empty. Okay. Now we should observe what is possible in the S row C column, S row F column, similarly T row C column and T row dollar column. In S row C column, we write S production. Here S we do have two productions. S tends to DAT, we write in the S row and first of DAT, that is D column. Here S tends to DAT possible here. And S tends to RF, you write in the first of RF column. First of RF is first of R. Here what is first of R? C, comma epsilon. Here first of R is possible to become a C, and if it becomes epsilon, then S is going to start with F. It means S tends to RF, you write in the C column and F column. Why? Because first of RF is C and F respectively. So S tends to RF, you write in the column C and also you write in the column F. Second one, the T productions. T tends to AS, you wrote in the A column. Why? Because first of AS is A. T tends to BAT, you should write in the first of B column, B. And T tends to epsilon, we need to write in the fall of T column. Find what is fall of T. Here you observe, after T you don't have any symbols, it means fall of T is fall of S. As we know that S is a starting non-terminal, fall of S is dollar. And here you also observe T is here. What T is following? First of R. What is first of R? C. So you write C here. And epsilon means this R is becoming epsilon, then it means T is not going to follow any symbols, means it is going to follow its parent. Means fall of T equal to fall of R. Here you observe what is fall of R. What R is following? F. So you write F also in the fall of T. So what is fall of T? Dollar, C and F. It means T tends to epsilon, you write in the column dollar, C and F. T tends to epsilon in column C. T tends to epsilon in column F, already there, and T tends to epsilon, it also requires in column dollar. T tends to epsilon. Now entry 1, here I am writing entry 1 is S tends to RF. Entry 2 is also S tends to RF. Entry 3, which is T tends to epsilon. Entry 4, which is also T tends to epsilon. Fine. Now we need to check with an option which option is matching. S tends to RF, entry 2 blank given. So it is incorrect, option A. Incorrect. Option 1 is blank given, but what is possible in 1? S tends to RF is possible. So option B wrong. Entry 1 is blank again, but entry 1 is filled with S tends to RF production, which is also wrong. Entry 1 S tends to RF, right. Entry 2 S tends to RF, right. Entry 3 T tends to epsilon, 4 also T tends to epsilon. Now option D is the correct answer for the question. Coming to the third question. Consider the following statements. Every SLR of one grammar is unambiguous. It is a true statement. Every SLR of one is unambiguous. Why? Because no ambiguous grammar is accepted by LR of K parsers. Means all LR parsers will accept only unambiguous grammars. Now SLR of 1 is a class of LR of K parsers which is going to accept only unambiguous grammars. This is a statement true. But there are certain unambiguous grammars that are not SLR of 1. There are certain unambiguous grammars that are not SLR of 1. Is the statement is true? Yes. Why? The superset of SLR of 1 is LALR of 1 and CLR of 1. A grammar that is SLR of 1 definitely be LALR of 1 and CLR of 1. But a grammar that is LALR of 1 and CLR of 1 need not be SLR of 1. What is the statement given? But there are certain unambiguous grammars that are not SLR of 1. Yes, true. That could be either LALR of 1 or CLR of 1 possible. That need not be SLR of 1 always. So statement S1 is a true statement. Now look for statement 2. For any context-free grammar, there is a parser that takes at most big O of n cube time to parse a string of length n. This is directly a note point according to the CYK algorithm. So, statement 2 is also a true statement. It means both S1 and S2 are true. So, option A says S1 is true and S2 is true, correct, and remaining options are incorrect. So, answer for this question is option A. Coming to the fourth question. Consider the following C code segment. This is a code segment is given. This code segment is in the form of 3 address code because each statement containing at most 3 references. Now, question is, if a compiler, this code segment is represented internally as a directed acyclic graph. We call it as a DAG. The number of nodes in the DAG is simple. We have to construct a DAG for the 3 address code statements are given and count how many nodes are possible in the DAG. First 3 address statement. We have to create a node for B if it is not already there. Initially graph is empty, nothing is there. So, we have to create a node for B and we have to create a node for C, and also we have to create a node plus whose 2 adjacent nodes are B and C. And name that node, the result of B plus C is A. So, name that node as A. Next, create a node for A if it is not already there, but A already there. Create a node for 1 if it is not already there. 1 is not there, we have to create one node for 1. And now create a node plus whose 2 adjacent nodes are A and 1. Now create a node plus whose 2 adjacent nodes are A and 1 and name the node with the result E. Here you call E. Next, create a node B if it is not already there, but B already there here. Create a node C if not already there, but already there. Create a node plus whose 2 adjacent nodes are B and C also there. Now name this node with the result D. What it indicates? What it indicates? A equal to B plus C, D equal to B plus C are called common subexpressions. DAG is used for identifying the common subexpression. This is one of the application of DAG. Because these A and D representing the node plus, it means B plus C is a common sub-expression for the statement 1, A equal to B plus C and D equal to B plus C. Coming to the fourth statement, create a node D if it is not already there. Here D already there. Create a node 1 already there. Create a node plus whose adjacent nodes are D and 1. Plus already there, whose adjacent nodes are D and 1 also there. Now name the node with the result, that is F. It means E equal to A plus 1 and F equal to D plus 1. These two are also called